Welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to individuals that are interested in having a successful accounting, bookkeeping, or tax business. This show is dedicated to helping individuals who are in the process of starting, determining what to offer, how to actually start their business, or for individuals that have established accounting firms to determine what it is they can be doing next to train their staff, or more importantly, offer more compelling services and generate additional revenue within the business. We're addressing each week a topic related to marketing, sales, onboarding, pricing, consultative services, becoming a business coach, working more efficiently, using technology, all of those things to help you become more profitable and in fact, get paid what you're worth. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center. For more than 20 years, I've been working with accounting professionals to help them start and build their businesses. And in that process, I've met a number of individuals with whom I'm great friends with, and more importantly, seen them thrive and have the success they're looking for, whether it be they're doing this part-time, full-time, whether they're doing this as solo entrepreneurs or building a thriving business with employees. Either way, they're offering quality accounting, bookkeeping, and tax services with confidence and competence. So with that, I have a guest today, someone that I think you're going to really enjoy and learn a lot from. His name is Adam Syvock. He has a bachelor's from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and in 2014 he finished his studies and then enrolled in Universal Accounting. Afterwards, in the bookkeeping, tax, and QuickBooks programs that are offered, as well as the master coaching program that we have. With that, Adam started as an academic coach in 2016 for Universal Accounting Center, and now services the students of Universal Accounting as an academic coach in the bookkeeping, tax preparer, and QuickBooks programs. Now, what's most important about Adam is he actually has his own accounting business offering accounting and tax services. He happens to also be a person that is successfully running a company called Infinity Accounting, and he's been doing that since 2015. Wow, I almost said 19-something. Since 2015, and since then, he's opened another separate practice. So, Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be amazing. So I just want to start with the basics. Let's just go back to the beginning. What drew you to the accounting profession initially? What gave you the idea that this was going to be a good profession to get into?
Well, I remember initially, growing up very young, my grandmother, who, I had a big impact on my life, was a small business accountant. She did manufacturing accountant for just small mom and pop kind of trucking companies, manufacturing companies. And I always was just in awe of what she did and how she did it and the relationships she had built over the years. As I sort of grew older, I was, I kind of bounced from here to there. I was into music for a while. I was into music production. I eventually settled on maybe I should go back to school for finance. And that was a little more theoretical for me. And I just took an intro to accounting class, fell in love with it. And I think the first day of the first intro class, I said, this is what I'm going to do now.
I love it. So you went through, got your degree. Tell me about what happened after college. Did you go get a job, start your business? Tell us about that evolution.
Well, I was a little different when I took my first intro to accounting course. I just said I was a little bit older, so I didn't want to, and I'd gone through the couple of years of, college, and I didn't want to have to deal with, the rigors of public accounting, the 60 to 70 hours a week during tax season. And I always wanted to just, I want to have my own little small accounting business where I'm just doing, small businesses and little individuals. So I did an internship for a small firm and worked for two other small firms after that. And after the last one, I felt like I had gained enough knowledge where I could do this on my own and just sort of gradually started making those steps.
So what amazes me is you did it very quickly. I work with a lot of people that they're usually, after their degrees, working in the accounting profession for 10, 15, 20 years before they choose to go out on their own. And there's various reasons why they choose to do that or actually start their companies. But what was your reasoning? I mean, I agree you had the experience, but what actually caused you to say, I'm going to go this path. I'm going to leave this position and I'm going to go this direction to start my own company. Was there a pivotal moment that occurred at that time?
Yeah, I have a daughter with a heart condition. She's got a congenital heart defect, and we didn't know the severity of what it was going to be at the time. So I thought it would be beneficial for at least one of us to have some sort of flexibility and schedule in terms of like if we needed to be called upon to give her a little more attention, that we would be there for her.
Yeah. And by the way, you've got a beautiful daughter. It's an amazing, the story that you have there. And I quite often see some of the posts that you do of her, and it's obvious that you love her very dearly. And I'm happy for you on that. Um, let's talk about with regards to then the freedom of starting the business. Starting a business isn't easy, and you started it with the flexibility of being able to be there for your daughter. Tell us about some of the challenges that you faced actually trying to do that and being there for her.
It's the challenges that everybody else faces. Just, sort of, how do I get the confidence to talk about my business? How do I get clients at the same time and, support, help support my daughter, and, the also balancing the hospitals and things like that. She had a open heart surgery at 11 months. So, I was basically living at the hospital with her while she was having her surgery. During the day, I would give her as much attention as I could, and tried to as well squeak some time in between to do clients' books on my laptop.
So while you were going through that, you were obviously getting clients, taking care of clients. I'm assuming that led to some long days and long hours. What were some of the challenges that, as you look back, you realized you had to go through, but at the same time, you weren't expecting?
I mean, in that time period, just the sort of unknowing of everything, just on the personal level and also on the business level, you never knew, starting out, there's a lot of unknowns, like where's my next client going to come from? How am I going to market my services? How am I going to offer all these services? Again, how am I going to get the confidence to convey all this, to have clients trust me and to take them on as a client?
What you just shared there is, I think, exactly what everyone needs to hear. Starting the business is tough enough as it is, and here you were doing it while dealing with your daughter's health and the heart complications that were happening then. It was obviously a very trying time, but you obviously did it. And so one of the things that I'd like to point out is we all kind of go through these moments where we kind of have to step up and do what needs to be done. So as you reflect on those trying times, what advice would you give to your future self as you realize here you are today, this is what your business is now? What would you tell your past self about, stick to it kind of a thing? What advice would you say?
I mean, I always am a proponent of there's always going to be a better day. There's always going to be a better time. And, the routes that you plan now and the sort of baby steps that you take now, regardless how small they may be, are going to definitely, come to fruition at some point.
So it's definitely worth it in the end.
For sure.
Yeah. So with regards to now your situation, you talked about your grandmother and how she was somewhat of an influence on you. What was an important lesson that you learned from your grandmother, or maybe some family that helped you as you started your business?
I would say generosity and humility. She was the kind of person that, if you liked a certain kind of brandy and you were coming over to her house that night, she was going to have a bottle ready for you. At least my experience, she never, bragged about herself or, was boastful about herself. And I try to emulate the same way, to try to be as laid back as I can and not try, especially with some students and like, oh, you have all this stuff going on and you're doing this and you're doing that. And it's like, I never try to brag about where I've gotten to. I always try to look at where the next step of where I need to go.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm going to put you in an uncomfortable situation perhaps then, because I'm going to ask that basically you brag. Tell us about your business. What are the services you offer? And I don't want you to mention just yet your niche. I'm going to ask the niche next.
In 2015, I started Infinity Accounting, and I usually, with that particular business, I focus on the, small service-based businesses between $50,000 and $500,000 of revenue a year.
And do you offer tax services, coaching services?
Yeah. I offer bookkeeping, tax, financial advisory, payroll, pretty much everything, in terms of the financials, we pretty much offer.
Very traditional, and I applaud you for that. So here's what I was getting at with the niche. I think you were very wise to address an opportunity. You saw something and you seized it. And I think it says a lot about where you're able to then specialize. What was it about some changes going on that chose you to identify a niche, and what is it and what have you accomplished in that?
Well, I had been doing some research and around the same time, and I think it was like 2018 or 19. I think it was 18. I had gotten a call from a acquaintance of mine who had started a dispensary in Illinois for cannabis for medical, and he said, "Well, do you know about any of this stuff?" And I said, "Well, how much time do I have to learn?" So we did that, and I really enjoyed just the learning and the sort of uniqueness of the industry and all the different challenges that come with it. And I just thought that this would be a good opportunity to sort of create a side practice that would focus primarily and solely on that.
I think it's just fascinating because you're right. This is a few years ago, but as laws were passed in various states to legalize marijuana and cannabis, all of a sudden you had this unique dynamic. It was still a federal regulated substance. And as such, there were issues regarding banking. It became basically a cash industry. And you couldn't do interstate type business. And so you had growers and dispensaries. So in reality, two different types of businesses. The growers were dealing with a certain business model that was very unique, and they needed accounting, but they needed a unique accounting model simply because it was so much cash based and so forth. And they couldn't put a lot of the money into the bank and so forth, or any money in the bank. And then you had the dispensaries. They were also dealing with their own challenges, and a lot of it was related to cash and the accounting going on from a cash point of view. It wasn't uncommon to see the dispensary dealing with a vault of sorts in the back where all the cash was used to pay the bills, pay payroll, and so forth. It was just an amazing business model for this emerging market as it basically started to pop up state after state after state. So what kind of nuances did you find from an accounting perspective that really came into light there?
Well, I mean, the banking is the main sort of challenge. I mean, it's still a challenge. I mean, even though it's legal in some states, there's still a lot of banks that don't want to take that risk and don't want to have that on their books in terms of, liability concerns. The main sort of elephant in the room in terms of uniqueness is the, Section 280E of the IRS code, which basically states that if a business is trafficking in a Schedule 1 or I believe Schedule 2 substance, that the only thing they can really deduct is cost of goods sold. So that creates a lot of sort of challenges and finding opportunities to sort of maximize cost of goods sold in an ethical and legal way.
Yeah. So now you're actually in that space. You've attended conferences and presented yourself as kind of the go-to accountant in that area. Uh, with your choice of going into that niche, a lot of times we as accounting professionals have that word thrown out as we need to niche ourselves. Well, obviously, it doesn't mean you stop doing accounting for anyone else. It just says you kind of hone in with your marketing and your sales strategies to address that need in that marketplace. What have you found that's unique? What were some of the unique ahas that happened as you got into that profession, that side of the profession?
I think the main thing is that a lot of the owners were just completely, I don't want to say ignorant, but just completely uninformed of what they need to do and how they need to do it. A lot of them wanted to treat it just like a normal business and, a normal cash-based, service business or a retail business. And there was a lot of frustration where you would meet owners and they say, well, we feel like we have a handle on this. And, you see the court cases from the IRS where basically people are doing that, and you see the results of what has been happening. They're basically coming after these companies for large sums of money because they're basically filing, for example, they're filing tax returns because they file a tax return like they're any other business.
Uh-huh. So when you're looking at your business today and you're running your business and doing what you do you have a mantra or a quote that you use to kind of keep yourself grounded and focused on let's say your business principles?
Well, just, always be above board, I guess, in terms of the cannabis business, because I never want to put I don't ever want to put myself or my clients in a position where what we're doing is going to be a liability instead of an asset to them.
Very good. Very good. Now, with regards to your business, you obviously are in a position where you also work with a lot of the accounting professionals that go through the programs at Universal. And as you work with these accounting professionals, they're oftentimes turning to you as not just a tutor to learn the content, but perhaps also as a mentor with advice and suggestions, being that you have your own successful accounting business. So I have a few questions related to that. And the first question is as you're working with people who are stepping out of their comfort zone and trying to learn bookkeeping, tax, consultative services, what advice do you have for them? And what do you typically see them struggling with?
Well, first of all, my advice would just be sort of, you have to have a level of learning, especially, learning how to set up your business, how to do this. Once you get out of the course, you're by all means, you're not finished learning. There's things to be learned every day about this business. There's things changing constantly. There's always new tools and new technologies to embrace to help make you more efficient and better suited as a business person. And I guess the biggest questions deal about with marketing and setting up your business. And I always try to just encourage students just to, while they're going through the courses, the earlier you start, the better, the better foundation you lay, the better off you're going to be in the long run.
Very good. So with regards to the coaching and the support that you give them, what suggestions would you have for them? Are there best practices as to going through the programs or actually using your services and expertise, accessing you?
Well, students often will email me and say, if it's a task course, like, how do I read this first? Or, do I watch the videos, or how do I do that? And what are you here for? And I always tell students, like, my sort of advice in terms of like the order of reading versus watching videos versus doing tests and practice tests and quizzes and all that. And I always encourage them at any point, if they're stuck on anything, or if they want to go over anything, or if they just want to pick my brain and bounce, some ideas off of, don't hesitate to give me a call or an email, because, I try to be pretty accessible. And, I think it always helps to have that person to sort of bounce ideas back and forth. I know when I first started my practice, and actually right before I enrolled or while I was enrolled in Universal, I reached out on Facebook to one of these Facebook groups and said, hey, has anyone ever gone through the Universal accounting program? And I met a mentor through that, way, and I still talk to him today.
That is awesome. I love hearing that. So regarding your business, what are some of the metrics that you look at as you're running your own company? What are some of the key performance indicators that you're managing your business by?
I've always, well, not always. I imagine they wish it was always. Around 2016, I hooked up with the Profit First people. So I've always been a big advocate for that, and also managing expenses, sort of allocating your resources and making sure they're being used most efficiently. I use usually just revenue and net revenue as one of my main metrics, and revenue per client. So average monthly revenue is a big one for me.
So average monthly revenue, and with regards to your business, give us an idea of not necessarily the revenue, but just, what kind of clients you work with and what kind of things you find yourself doing on a day-to-day basis. Kind of a peek into your business day.
Yeah. My first sort of business is very generalist. I know, a lot of people aren't the biggest fan of that, but I think I found a way to sort of work within that space and at the same time be efficient with it. So that being said, I have, a car rental company I was just doing before this interview. I have a couple daycares. I have some contractors, some truckers, a media company, an IT company. So
I love how diverse you are. You obviously have a good round business in the sense that you're not in a specific industry necessarily, even though you've chosen to specialize particularly in the cannabis world. So I appreciate that. Let's talk about marketing. Earlier, you were speaking about how some people, when setting up their business, have marketing concerns or questions. This isn't necessarily a marketing discussion in detail, but do you have a marketing advice or a place to start, if you will?
Well, I'm going to be running all over the place here. I talk to Clay pretty often, like once a week during his calls, as often as I try to at least. And I mentioned to him that sort of my whole philosophy was that marketing is a symphony. So, and I tell students, don't just do one thing. You go out there, research the different ways to market your business, and get the different ideas of what works best. Be it SEO, online ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, mailers, cold calling, networking events. I mean, they're each going to produce their own sort of returns, and you have to find what works best for you and what you think could be improved on and what you think could be expanded to sort of beef up your marketing efforts.
I liked your analogy of the symphony. I think that's so true. It takes a lot of moving parts to make the marketing and sales work well. Oftentimes when I'm working with people, they're either very good at one or the other. They're really great at marketing, but can't sell well, or they sell great, but they just don't know how to market and find the potential business owners. So it's always good to first identify what you're great at, and then from that, figure out what you need to do to enhance what you're lacking in. And then as a symphony, it's okay, what part of the symphony do we want to emphasize? Are we going to get the triangle to go right now? Are we going to get the let's say the string instruments to play more? It's what are we going to do to emphasize our strengths? And when it comes to marketing, at least in the coaching I've done, it's what does the customer, the client feel most comfortable and excited about? If they're comfortable with, let's say, a certain marketing strategy, that's the one we're going to embrace and kind of run with it, simply because they can get excited about it. And so there's typically about 12 or so that are inexpensive and yet proven technologies, but it doesn't mean they have to do all 12. They may be doing, let's say, 4 or 5 or 6 of the 12. So let's talk about basically the accounting services. Where do you think your firm is making its biggest return on investment or biggest margins? Is it the accounting, the bookkeeping, the tax services? Where are you making the money?
Mainly it's around the biggest share is the bookkeeping and also the advisory. So I have obviously all my clients I'm doing bookkeeping for, and about half of those I have some sort of advisory services with them as well.
And with your services, this is going to be a really important question. What tool or resource are you feeling helps you do your work efficiently? What is a tool or technology that if you were to speak with an accounting professional, you would suggest that they should consider using to be more profitable in the services they're offering?
I think in terms of the bookkeeping, I think QBO is one of the more efficient accounting platforms out there, as well as sort of Accounting Suite, which is a newer cloud accounting tool. And then I also like, Receipt Bank and I'm also sort of digging into some of the more financial advisory KPI softwares as well. I'm sort of trying to play with them during tax season. I sort of have been doing it old school for a while and using Excel and different reporting. I'd have reports and I'd write my own reports. So I'm trying to find a way to sort of streamline that.
Perfect. Okay, good. I appreciate that. Some subtle plugs for a few places. The next thing I'd like to do is just break away for a quick sponsorship mention, and then I'm going to come back with some other questions I'd like to ask you. As a sponsor, Universal Accounting Center is making available to the listeners of today's episode a free copy of a book that all accounting professionals should actually have in their library. It is the book Red to Black. It's essentially the how-to guide for accounting professionals to help business owners with the most common challenge that is oftentimes faced, which is cash flow management, helping them essentially determine what they can do to take their business from being in the red to being in the black. So go to the episode description of today's podcast and actually find there the information you need to get your free copy of the ebook Red to Black. And it's the how-to guide for accounting professionals to help you literally take your clients from being in the red to being in the black. Now, Adam, one of the things that I wanted to mention is with regards to your business, you're obviously doing a lot of things. You're staying very busy, but you've got to have a hobby, a downtime. What's something that you enjoy doing that is kind of a distraction, a way of decompressing, if you will?
I've really kind of fallen into jujitsu. That's sort of my newest hobby. I started it in October. I think, with sort of the times we're facing now, it's very important to have sort of an outlet to sort of release a lot of that stress. Many of us can't go many places. We're kind of stuck at home, and I wanted to have something that release that tension from not just work, but also just from the climate we're in.
Perfect. And I knew about jujitsu. I know you're quite passionate about it. Let me ask about your meditation thing. I know you were also quite involved with something else that you use for meditating.
Yeah, I also do that. Yeah, I do that twice a month. I think it's important, besides having an outlet to sort of release stress, also to try to find a way to relieve it in other ways. And about a year ago, actually almost 2 years ago, I got into float tank therapy. So going into I guess you can call it a sensory deprivation tank.
Yep.
It's basically a pool of water, which is about 11 or 12 inches high, and it's filled with about 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. And you basically just float there and relax. And I think, with so much technology around us, it's good to just sort of like get away at those times of the month and then just unplug and reset and sort of just be.
Perfect. I love it. I think we all need some ways to escape and recharge. Personally, I've got what I'll refer to as a shack in the woods. I go up there. There's no electricity. I don't have reception with my cell phone. I literally decompress and disconnect from everything and get back to nature. And I just love being able to sit there. Oftentimes I go with friends or family, and we just are able to visit and chat without distractions. It's like you just described, a great way to decompress. And I do enjoy that. I try to get up there as often as perhaps once a month. So it's a big deal to me. So I like that.
And with the jujitsu, I mean, there's a lot of philosophy with the jujitsu I take, and one of the main models that they have is, especially when you're starting, is comfort in chaos. So it's sort of you're on the ground and you're kind of struggling with how you're doing these techniques and what you need to do, and putting your legs here or hipping out or what you need to do to master that particular set of techniques and solve the problems when you're on the ground with someone. And I think that relates a lot to being in business, where, you have to sort of embrace the uncomfortable to sort of be successful.
I like that. Thank you for that analogy. That's wonderful. Share with me a challenge you faced in business and how you overcame it.
I think early on, one of the biggest challenges was finding a voice of how I can sort of convey my business. I joined BNI and I wasn't entirely sure, how to, what am I going to say to these people, or how am I going to convince them that, I have any value to offer. And so one of the things that I did is, around the same time, I think one of the people from Universal called me and said, "Hey, how are things going with your business? Are there any questions?" And I explained this, and they offered to enroll me in their master coaching program. And at the time, Rick Howard did that. And him and I, during our sessions, we really had I had a good experience just discussing, we kind of became friends over the period. And just discussing, how to build a successful business and sort of the steps you need to take, and, how to gain more confidence in what you're offering, and sort of picking the services you're going to do and focusing on those, and just conveying that message just over and over again on how, and if you ever come across somebody, what do you want to say to them about your business?
Perfect. I appreciate not only just the challenge that you faced, but how you explained how you worked past it and got through it. And I appreciate that it was reaching out and actually getting some help, because I think that vulnerability, reaching out, saying I need some insights, a different perspective, can really help any of us in any of the difficult challenges we may face. Just realizing we're not in this alone and have to do it alone. So that's wonderful. Let's kind of go to the coaching that you offer with Universal Accounting, just as a quick aside. I know that you work with a lot of the accounting professionals and help them in their process of starting and building their business. As a coach, as a mentor, what is something that you would like to tell them that maybe they don't realize, especially if they haven't taken advantage of the coaching, whether it be with you, their orientation counselor, their business coach, their life coach? What would you just say in general about taking advantage of the resource that's available through the coaching?
Just that we're always here. And I think that each one of us brings a unique set of skills in order to help the students. And we each help the students in different ways. And that many times, even if I'm, for example, if I'm following up with students, I get the sense sometimes that they feel so hesitant about asking for help and like they're going to be looked down upon. But, I think we've all been there. We've all been in situations where we're learning something and there's a frustration or even like a not knowingness, I guess you could say, where, you don't know where to turn or, you don't know the next steps to take. So I always encourage students to just give me a call, give me an email, and, let's talk about what issues you're facing, or if it's related to the course or setting up your business, or, what are some things that you should be doing, while you're taking the course to set things up to get you on the right path to being a good business owner and sort of having a successful practice.
Basically reach out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the main thing. I mean, if you don't reach out, you're never gonna get any benefits from it.
That's right. That's right. So here's a good question for you. What is something that you are thankful for?
I think my daughter, I mean, going through that experience sort of, I think molds you. And, I think being a father is a blessing, but even more so when they have health concerns. And just, I think also just being thankful for, the position I'm in and, all the people that I've met through not only the training, but also clients that I can say that I sort of did things my way.
I love it. I love it. And you're right. Children can be very, very much a blessing. They help us appreciate, I think, every day. And when there's health concerns that are involved, every day becomes even that much more precious. So that's very, very true. So let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to wrap up some of the things that we've been discussing, and then I'm going to ask Adam for his final thought. But there's a few things that I'd like to share, and it's essentially that whatever the reason, everybody is in a situation that typically causes them to start their own business. And in Adam's case, he had obviously gotten to a point where comfortably working for accounting firms, he had gotten the confidence, the skills he needed, but it was that life-changing moment of needing to be there for his daughter. And likewise, I think a lot of us experience that moment where decisions have to be made and we have to take that leap of faith and just kind of do that next best thing. And in Adam's case, he really embraced it, ran into it, is now running a thriving accounting business. And as he runs his business, has chosen to also specialize in a very specific niche that he is also an expert in. So in addition to the multitude of clients that he has, he's definitely found a way to niche his services and become an expert within the cannabis world. The other thing that I think is very helpful is Adam spoke of coaching and the idea of being vulnerable. There's definitely something to be said of what we can do to learn from one another. It's kind of a community thing. It's a mentoring type thing. And I think Adam was very good to explain how he, in his own situation, found it helpful, and then more importantly, encourages the rest of us to reach out to the coaches in our lives and see what we can do to leverage that as to helping us learn, study, and grow what we're trying to accomplish. With that being said, there's also that promotional offer that is available in the episode description. You definitely want to take advantage of the opportunity to get a copy of the book Red to Black. Get that copy simply so that you can now actually address the most common issue faced by business owners today, which is cash flow management. So, Adam, share with us your final thought. What type of a parting thing would you like to share?
I think, I guess the thing that comes to mind for me is, whether you're a student, you're learning something personal, you're learning, or you're a business owner, you always want to, keep moving forward and finding the tools, the resources, and people to help you accomplish that.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. So with all these things being shared today, I want to thank everyone for listening in. Obviously, this podcast is meant to give you insights and suggestions and a chance to hear from the experts, which I would definitely consider Adam to be as he's running his own successful accounting business. And in doing so, I invite you to subscribe to the podcast and listen to our other episodes to see what things are available to help you as you are actually in this journey of building the premier accounting firm in your area. For more information about these principles and how you can apply them in your business, I invite you to reach out to us at universalaccountingschool.com, or you can go to universalaccounting.com, or lastly, give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. Do take care, have a great day, and always remember this: accounting success is universal. Have a great day and be safe out there, everyone.